Hey, AP students, welcome to our vocabulary section for Chapter 11 on South and Southeast Asia. All right, our first word that we need to know is monsoon winds. So monsoon winds are seasonal winds that would come off the Arabian Sea into India, and they would bring a lot of rain. What was really important about these monsoon winds is that they had a big effect on the Indian Ocean trade route. If we look here, we're talking about South Asia particularly. What would happen is the monsoon winds would come in to areas like India, and eventually people who lived in places like the Swahili city-states learned to use and go with these winds, and then they would come back with these winds, and they would come in different seasons. So in one season of the year, you would have the winds blowing towards India, and another part of the year, you'd have the winds blowing towards Africa. So the ships would come to India, fill up their boats with spices and everything, and then come back into Africa for their trade. So from about April to September, the winds would take you to India. And we see on here from February to November, they would take you back into this coast of Africa. And eventually people would use these winds to increase the trade. So for theme of history, this fits under environment, but if you put economics, we could also take that as well. All right, let's get to our next word. Lateen sails. These were movable sails that were used in the Indian Ocean trade route, and they were really good, especially with going with the monsoon winds that we just talked about and allowing more trades. And these lateen sails could be moved and go in different directions, which would give you, more ability to move and go faster and with your trade goods. So lateen sails really increased the goods going back and forth on the Indian Ocean trade route. A stern rudder was developed on the back of the boat, and it basically allowed you to direct the boat and allowed you to be more steady with where you were going. So it was basically on the back that allowed you to go with your direction. It's often now where we would see a motor on a boat that you would see today. Here's where the stern post rudder would be, and they could use it to turn. Another picture of one right here is a rudder on the back of a boat. In the back of the boat, and they would allow the boat to turn, make it steadier, and give it better direction besides just the wind. So this, in combination with the lateen sail, allowed navigators to go places faster and steadier, less likely of crashing as well, and they could also take more trade goods back and forth. Urdu is a language that is a combination of Farsi, which comes from Persia, and also Arabic. It is a language spoken in today parts of Pakistan mainly, also in India by Muslims. So it's a Muslim language that's a combination of Persian Farsi and also Arabic. A guru is a great teacher and leader. So someone who's very wise and enlightened, we can say. So a guru will become very important in this language called Sikhism, that will grow. And Sikhism is a combination of the Hindu religion and Islam. So in a guru, you need to know for the most part, is a great teacher and a great leader. A proselytizing religion is a religion that wants to convert people, or it's a religion that wants to grow. It's basically a religion that wants to grow and wants to spread and wants to become larger. Christianity is one, so is Islam as well. Some religions like Hinduism and Judaism really aren't proselytizing religions. They're more what we'd call ethnic religions, that they stay mostly in one group of people. But proselytizing make efforts to spread. Sufis are religious Muslims who have taken some elements of Hinduism and other aspects into their religion. But more than anything, there are people who believe in deep spiritual experiences through prayer, which often lead to songs that can be repeated over and over again, almost to like a trance-like state. So there's people who are very deeply emotional about the religion, singing, and believe that they can get revelations through doing prayers and songs. And they're a little bit more lenient. They're not as strict in Islam. They're willing to take more outside influence. Sufism will become big in the spread of Islam, especially in parts of modern-day Afghanistan, India, as it spreads in this era. The Bhakti movement is a movement that really combines a lot of elements of both Hinduism and Islam together. And again, it stresses having a deep devotional experience with God. It spreads in India along, as Sufism does too, as people kind of take a combination of these faiths of Islam and Hinduism as they kind of mix together. So it's really Sufism and the Bhakti movement are really primary examples of cultural diffusion that happens in India. The Ramayana, it's back. We're going to put it in there again. You'll remember this one, right? Okay. Ramayana is the epic Hindu tale of Ra as he has lost his wife Sita and he tries to find her. He has a monkey that's near him and helping him out, but the whole thing, there's all these series of triumphs that he has to overcome to find his wife Sita, and that's where it ends at the end. So it's basically a story of devotion and love of a king trying to go back together with his queen. And it's a huge, enormous epic. And it's very important in Hinduism and in India today. The Mahabharata is another very long epic poem in Hinduism, mainly in India. And Mahabharata is most known for the Bhagavad Gita, which has the story of Arjuna, who is supposed to fight against his cousins and his family. But he feels like he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to kill his family, which is understandable. He's told by Vishnu, who comes from Brahman. We talked about Vishnu as an avatar that comes from Brahman, and tells him, you're a Kshatriya. You're a warrior. Your job is to fight. You don't question orders, you fight. You see part of the caste system there. If you are a warrior, you are supposed to do your job. So Arjuna does fight against his cousins and his family, and eventually overcomes them in the story. And it's a real important, especially culturally in Hinduism in India, that all people follow their dharma or their duty. So the most important thing is that you're supposed to follow your duty, and explains a lot about the caste system as it exists in India. Dar al-Islam, it's back again. So Dar al-Islam is basically the land of Islam, or Islamic lands. This is a land where Arabic was spoken primarily. It was a land of a lot of trade that went all the way from our trans-Saharan trade network in Africa, Indian Ocean trade network. As Islam spreads in this era, as its language spreads and trade spreads, Dar al-Islam becomes a very large culture and economic area where people can go back and forth. Prime example of this would be Ibn Battuta, who was able to travel all throughout this area of Dar al-Islam because he knows Sharia or Islamic law, and he can speak Arabic. He's able to go from place to place to place, which is evidence really of there was a lot uniting Dar al-Islam together, even though there were many different cultures. Raja is basically king. You can also see it R-A-J, Raj, and it means king. In many Indian societies, this basically means the king or the person in charge. Jizya is basically a tax that in Muslim kingdoms at this time, if you wanted to keep your own religion, they would let you. The requirement was that you had to pay a special tax, and then you could keep your own religion. And that is Jizya. Hey, back again. Guess what? That Indian Ocean trade, pretty big thing. Indian Ocean Basin, our next word, is basically just the area where the Indian Ocean trade took place. Basin means kind of like a bowl. It is the area of water around India and this area of Southeast Asia, and Africa where the trade took place. Spice Islands are located in Southeast Asia, basically around the islands around Indonesia and Malaysia today. This is where there were a lot of spices that were found, like nutmeg, cinnamon, and such, that were found and traded for in the larger, you guessed it, Indian Ocean trade. So here are our Spice Islands right here, which were a very valuable part of the Indian Ocean trade for places like China, India, and even all the way to Africa. Indian Ocean trade. It's a big deal. Ready to talk Jatis? I'm ready to talk Jatis. Let's talk Jatis. So, we have the Jatis are basically the caste system in India. They are the different castes of which you were born in. So a jati is your caste. There's Kshatriya, where Arjuna was in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahabharata, where he was a warrior and he had to fight. So his jati was Kshatriya, or caste. All right, I think we got all those words. We're done. Good luck with the videos and readings. I will talk to you guys later.